mayor of the village of Aroma Park. He could not be with us this morning, so I'm filling in. I welcome you to the State of the County Address, a gathering of the county-wide organizations to discuss the current conditions here in Kankakee County. I'd like to thank the Kankakee County Chamber of Commerce for hosting this annual event and for everyone in attendance attending this Zoom morning meeting that we're having. I can't see all of your faces and you can't see all of me, but I can confirm I am fully dressed for the occasion. I am wearing dress pants, not sweatpants. And although our marketing manager kindly reminded me that no one would be the wiser. But in a new norm of video communications this year, adapting, preservation, and the utmost patience have been the key to ongoing operations for our local governmental bodies. In a world where accidentally not muting your mic is the new reply to all, we're quickly learned to digitally adapt. Millenniums and Generation X adapted a little more quickly than, say, the baby boomers like myself at the village of Bourbonnais. But here we are, and here I am, fully dressed. Now, anyone who has any advice on how to get my entire village board to recite the Pledge of Allegiance in unison on Zoom, feel free to contact me. We're still trying to figure that one out on our Zoom meetings. But unison is the term that you often hear when referring to political climates and government working together, but the Mayor's Association is an example of that. Comprised of local city mayors, village presidents, the chairman of the Kankakee County, and the Mayor's Association gathers at various times throughout the year to discuss current and common issues shared in our communities, ways to work together to better our county, and how to proactively plan for the future. Our individual communities may vary, our leadership and governing bodies do too. However, in these meetings, we are reminded to step aside from our town's corporate limits and work together to resolve the issues that affect the county as a whole. While we haven't been physically and safely able to host meetings since the past spring for obvious reasons, I can say we have been actually working towards a countywide electronic waste recycling program together. I won't go into too much detail. I'm sure Chairman Wheeler will be discussing this program more in depth at the county level. However, I will say that 330,000 pounds of e-waste was collected last year at the 2 electronic recycling sites here in Kankakee County, costing the taxpayers $150,000. This ongoing e-waste issue isn't going away, yet it continually is growing in need and in cost. We look forward to implementing this new program in 2021. I would like to thank Delbert Skimmerhorn, Kankakee County Planning Manager, for his work in applying for the program grant. And with that, I will grant permission to Andy to share the screen instead of passing the mic back on behalf of the Mayor Association. Thank you, everyone. Be healthy, be safe.
Thank you, Mayor. Really appreciate it. Thanks to the chamber and thanks to the mayor for wearing pants today. We appreciate that. So I'll get into this really quick because I got a lot of information here and trying to make sure I squeeze it all in here. Let's see here. Making sure that's coming through. Does everybody see the title slide? Yeah. All right, good deal. All right, so I'll go through a few things. The finances of the county, something called CPACE, Commercial Property Assessment for Clean Energy. It's a new countywide program I'll explain a little bit about, something the board passed that every municipality or governmental unit really could take advantage of. The CURE grant best practice, a little mini announcement regarding our finance department. I'll run through a slideshow of the courthouse renovations. A lot of people don't know that we have fulfilled our obligation to make the Kankakee County Courthouse ADA compliant, but we're also took that opportunity to do a bunch of renovations that we needed to do in order to set the building up to be able to at least function properly in terms of the entrances and exits and infrastructure steps, things like that, for the next 25 to 30 years, we think. So a little bit about the Hopkins Park natural gas pipeline, and then as the mayor mentioned, e-waste recycling. So the first thing is to talk about the finances of the county. We started, we got revenue and expense. We started the year with a balanced budget that contained a $3 million surplus within it. It is our continued goal to dig out of the hole that we were in. And it was a big one when we started this basically in late 2016. Then COVID hit, and as a lot of municipalities know and other governmental bodies, things really went sideways. We were able to adjust our expenses to meet our revenue numbers, and it looks like we're going to be breaking even, maybe even with a little bit of surplus at the end of the year. That's a big deal, and as a lot of governmental entities know, that was a lot of hard work went from a lot of different departments in the county in order for this to happen. Sheriff's Department was at the forefront, but everybody kind of got on board on that. When you have limited revenue, you have to limit your expense, and we did so. So this is kind of a snapshot going back to 2012. You've got, where we were when we started with a very small surplus, still not a very good financial position. We fell off the cliff through 2015, 2016. When we started this turnaround in 2017, we executed a financial plan, worked with labor. We've talked about this before, but in 2019, we're back into the positive. At the estimated 2020 is, again, we're looking at a slight increase in our fund balances on the general fund. Our tort and our pension funds are still very strong as well. So we're above water really for the first time since you look back, I believe it was 05 or 06 when the county was in a position like this. So CPACE, the Commercial Property Assessment for Clean Energy. It's a financing option for commercial property owners. It's to fund energy efficient measures for their properties. So it's voluntary, but it's countywide. So any municipality, any business within any municipality can take advantage of it. The eligible improvements are permanently affixed to the property. What this is in addition to the funding stack that potential developers will want to access if they're trying to cover off a gap that they may have. So if you're doing windows or energy efficient windows, geothermal, it could be solar panels, it could be really anything that would impact the energy efficiency of an upgrade of a property in a commercial setting. You can spread that out with a 0% roughly, over the course of, from a lender would go on your property tax bill. It's a very low percentage, and it's a really great program, and it allows these companies that are missing that 5 to 10 to 15% in their funding stack. So, retail, industrial facilities, multifamily, hospitality. A lot of hotels are taking advantage of this. That's a primary user. It's a new thing, but it's actually very exciting. We think that some of the development in Kankakee is going to take advantage of this that's going on right now. So please contact Ben Wilson at the county or the Economic Alliance, whatever time of the day he's at either office. So he can walk you through the program, but it's a really nice addition to our economic development tools that we can use all over the county. I wanted to mention a lot of the governmental bodies know about the CURE grant and the Department of Commerce. This is more of like a shout out to my finance department. There's a staff of true professionals in that department, and they've been accounting for all of the spend of all of our departments on the CURE grant. And the Department of Commerce chose our submission and the way that we documented all of our expenses as the best practice for the state of Illinois. So the presentation that the DCO sends out includes our materials and how we accounted for the man hours, whether it was employees, new janitorial staff we had, it was, anything and everything associated with COVID that we had to spend and get reimbursed for. So I wanted to thank our finance department, Steve McCarty, Chris Kerner, everybody involved, and the department heads who were diligent in keeping track of the extra expenses they had regarding this pandemic. So now is kind of a fun part. I know people like pictures and drawings. But in this case, the courthouse work went kind of behind the radar. We took advantage of it being closed for a little while. And like I said, we fixed the ADA issues that we had to the satisfaction of the Attorney General, jury assembly. So I'll just start running through it real quick. If you were over there, you saw this. The whole Circle Drive was deteriorating. We knew we had to do curb, and we had a grant for some curb and sidewalk work because of the ADA issues. So we said, let's take a look and see if we can't do this whole thing and spend a little bit more of our own. And you see the curb and really the sad shape that it was in. It was a hazard. It was a trip and fall hazard. Not only did it look not the best, to put it kindly, So we got in there, we dug it out, took it all the way back down to the original pavers that were there. It was a very, I guess, horse and buggy was not a very wide lane back in the day. It was only about 8 feet wide. It was surprising to see that. And it just came right off the edge of the steps there. But we got into it, we dug it all out. We laid down, we had to put a new gravel base in. We found that there wasn't much of a base. So we did all of this work. This is soon after it was done, so you still see kind of the hot spots, if you will, when they painted it. And no, this is soon after it rained, excuse me. But you kind of go through it. It looks really nice. It's functional with new sidewalk. This retaining wall that was over here, this is the side of our ADA ramp. There's already a skim coat on it. If anybody saw that before, there was a pile of gravel here on the ground. That was the wall, basically. And so we built that up. You see the railing here. This is what happened after we were done. We painted the railing. I'll go to the next slide. We have the new ADA ramp with the turn radius down here, new railings. Everything's been painted black to match up everything else that's in there. It looks great, and it's up to the standard that it needs to be. This here is under the front steps of the courthouse. And these are rails, railroad rails to use to support the steps. I guess it was their version of an expansion joint back in the day that would flex with the weather, but you can see why everything would be sagging. We had to continually spend money on fixing those steps. I have one of the bricks here in my office. It's one of the original, the company that made them is the one that did the brickyard down in Indianapolis. They did, that's why they call it the brickyard. It was made out of bricks when it started. So I looked it up. So we're talking 100-year-old supports in there. And this is how it looks from the side. You kind of get a better idea. Yeah, here's that brick that I was talking about over here. But it really is interesting when you got in there. So what we did is, instead of just trying to put it back together piecemeal, we poured some footings. We supported everything properly with brick and rebuilt those steps, put them back in. What we didn't really think about at the time is now we have a big gap at the bottom. So then all of this had to be replaced. And you see how this is new. This is the before, this is the after. You also notice the handrails for the safety measures that we put in these doors, because we had people, and I'm sure you've been there, you go into the courthouse, you forget you can't have your phone, so you got to go back out the door and go put it back in the car. But we had some folks that were tripping and falling coming back the other way, so we had to put up the handrails and to clearly mark and to be safe. Our maintenance staff did some power washing. Here you see the line on where it stops. We're going to be continuing with that. And we're actually going to be getting a price to see what it would cost to power wash the downtown jail. I'm sure those folks in Kankakee would love to see that happen. It doesn't look that good, obviously. So here's the ADA courtroom. And this is after it was tore up. And this is the view. You see a little ramp over here. So now we're able to have a fully accessible ADA courtroom for witnesses, for jurors. And associated with that, we had to have a jury assembly room that was ADA. So if we have the accommodation now that the Attorney General requires. This was all done during the shutdown from COVID, so we didn't disrupt the courts. That's Judge Albrecht's room is what we ended up. These are all the light posts that we repainted. You see how they looked before and how they were done. We repaired the cracks on all the bases. So when you start to look at what we spent this year, our total in project costs with the camera project at the jail, the courthouse, because we had to replace all of our cameras because of a lightning strike, the courthouse work, the emergency lights at JCDC, and then the LED lighting upgrade, spent about $1.4 million, and it actually cost us only about $1.7 million, or excuse me, $173,000 because of grants and other insurance payouts that we were able to attain from this. So it was a pretty good use of $173,000, I think, this past year. This LED lighting upgrade is going to save us a lot of money, especially in the jail where the lights are on, in the hallways at least, a great portion of the time. So the natural gas pipeline, Hopkins Park, just a quick update. Hopkins Park has agreed that the county will act as the fiscal agent for the project. We'll execute an intergovernmental agreement with the village, and then all of it will go through our internal controls and checks and balances, because we have a incredibly sound internal control system here at the county that is documented through clean audits all the way back to 2003. and we start to look at that, and that provides them with the resource to be able to lean on us to do all of that work so they can focus on the village. Now, we also wrote a grant from the Illinois Department of Commerce for $3.45 million, that if we get that, that could cover off the first major leg of getting natural gas into Hopkins Park. We also have some legislative things that Senator Joyce and Representative Parkhurst have done to back that up with legislation that would pay for it as well. So our goal is to maybe have the grant pay for the initial pipeline, and then all of these legislative efforts pay for it to get into people's houses and do the conversions in the houses. So it's a great cost savings over propane for those folks, and it's just an economic engine if we can get natural gas out there. Now, as Mayor Shore alluded, we first started talking about a countywide e-waste recycling program. Karma had got a grant some years ago, and then the grant went away. And so those municipalities in Karma, well, Karma was funding 2 collection sites, and everybody in the county was using it. And when we started talking about it, I thought it was only fair that the county step up and take care of our responsibility on a per capita basis. But then also I've been reaching out to other mayors. We've had meetings with most mayors in the county, if not all. At some point they've been contacted, and we've got a pretty good consensus that we're moving in this direction. But we want to contain those costs. We want to reduce them and then contain them. And we want one place that's pretty much open all the time, that's staffed. So we put out a bid for a partner that could act as this one location for everybody to bring their electronic waste. My goal was, obviously the ecological side of this, so it doesn't end up in the ditches in the rural areas of the county or in the alleys, but also save money. And then our residents could walk in with their ID and just show, hey, I'm in Kankakee County, and then it's free. Because right now you can't find a place to take these things, and no recycler really takes these. So, and then we're working on a payment structure that would allow jurisdictions to pay by population. $1 a resident is what we're looking at over the long term. So that's that program. Hopefully we'll have more to announce in the near future. It has to be up and running by the end of the year, and I think we've got enough momentum to get it done. Now, Region 7 mitigation, this is just a slide I added this morning because I didn't know if anybody had any questions. It starts Friday. We're going to be discussing it at the county board meeting today. I'm obviously not very happy, but it is what it is. And there are options that the county's exploring, but it's really rest upon the restaurants to explore their options as well. So I didn't know if, and John Beavis is here. I know that's not the goal of this call, but he's a great resource for information. Both hospitals obviously have information, but it's not a good situation. So I don't know if there's time for anybody to ask any specific questions about any of this, but I thought I would at least give that opportunity. Angela, anything?
Thank you, Andy. I appreciate that. I think right now we're going to keep going along, and we'll address some questions potentially at the end if we have some time.
Yeah, and I got to run to a county board meeting, but thanks for your time. Take care. And I'm going to introduce my friend Jim Rowe. He's here to tell you about how great of a chairman I've been, and you should have the PowerPoint in your email, Jim.
All right. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Angela. Thank you, everyone. I'm Jim Rowe, Kankakee County State's Attorney. I've got to say, I do miss the ability for all of us to meet over at the Knights of Columbus. I think most of all, I miss David Giuliani in the first row on that laptop clicking away. But persevere we must. So I'm happy to provide you with an update about the State's Attorney's Office. We have prosecuted the most felony violent offenders over a 4-year period than any time in the county's history. That may seem like unwelcome news if you're talking about a standpoint of statistics on crime or from a crime perspective, but if you do a deeper dive into those numbers, what they tell you is that crime hasn't necessarily increased countywide. We're still receiving approximately the same number of cases from local law enforcement agencies, but we now find ourselves in a better position to prosecute those cases. And that really speaks to the work being done by staff all throughout the criminal justice system, whether it's in the public defender's office, the state's attorney's office, all of our law enforcement agencies, probation, juvenile probation, circuit clerk's office, coroner. all across the field, really, everyone's working so well together. We've been more aggressive in our office than ever in prosecuting violent crime. I've designated specially trained prosecutors to focus on topics such as domestic violence, sexual assault, stolen auto, DUIs, complex narcotics, even animal abuse prosecutions. And those efforts ensure that there's a trained eye reviewing every single case prior to any charges being filed in our county's courthouse. We also partner with our law enforcement agencies when they refer cases to us for review. We have weekly meetings with the chiefs of police, monthly meetings with KMEG, which is our county's drug task force, and we've recently transitioned to a paperless process. That process, it was brought to us at the suggestion of some detectives at the city of Kankakee, which we learned about through a meeting that we had with their department. That really helps us, in addition to just reducing some of our office expenses by transitioning to a paperless product. It helps us, most importantly, review cases more quickly, to send investigation requests back to that agency with the click of a button. So when that additional investigation is needed to get the case in a position where we can charge it, we can accomplish that more quickly and still make that charging decision within 48 hours. So in the past, where an offender may have been released while the investigation was still being processed, we've now reduced that wait time, and that's a substantial win for public safety. We've also, as Chairman Wheeler talked about, the county's efforts on grants and the state's attorney's office, we've been equally aggressive in securing grant funding over the past couple of years. Just in this last year, we received grants from the Illinois Department of Transportation, the United States Department of Justice, the Illinois Criminal Justice Information Authority, and also from AmeriCorps. Additionally, we received increases to our VAWA, which is Violence Against Women Act grant, and our VOCA grant, which is Victims of Crime Act. These funds assist us in providing those specialized trainings to designated prosecutors and also in securing needed equipment that we probably wouldn't be able to afford out of our regular county budget. For instance, we now have an anatomically correct strangulation model, and that allows us within the realm of domestic violence, where strangulation is one of the most lethal types of violence. It allows us to demonstrate to a jury at trial the actual impact that being choked has upon a victim. And that's crucial for them to be able to not only hear from our experts, but see it physically on one of these models when we're presenting that case. These grants, in addition to that, have also helped us engage a mobile victim witness unit that we unveiled this year. That unit now travels to all corners of the county and in order to provide resources to victims of crime. We know that's important because that road from becoming a victim to a survivor is significantly shortened when individuals not only have access to the resources, but actually access those resources. So by bringing our advocates into the community where the victims live, we're able to provide them on a local level in a non-intimidating environment where they're most likely to be accessed. That's crucial for people across our county who maybe struggle with transportation issues or just the general anxiety that comes with sometimes coming to the courthouse, going through that court process when you are a victim of violent crime. So it's thanks to those grants, thanks to the strategic partnerships we formed with school districts, the private industry, park districts, so many entities, that we're also able to announce that for maybe the first time in the state's attorney's office's history, we're able to invest nearly as much in intervention and prevention initiatives that we do on the prosecution side. That is a necessary and that is a healthy balance for a long-term public safety and violence reduction strategy. We always hear the old saying, we can't arrest or prosecute ourselves out of these problems, but I am confident that we can mentor ourselves out of them. And that brings me to the last item this morning, a public call for mentors. Your state's attorney's office is leading a first in the nation. It's the only model across the country that provides a juvenile mentoring program, JUMP, specifically geared toward court-involved youth. And the focus of that program is to reduce recidivism, trauma, and entry into the adult criminal justice system by our juvenile offenders. We really have the opportunity to show the nation even what Kankakee County can do and to lead by example, to create a statewide model for juvenile justice right here in our own community. But that necessarily requires mentors and summer job opportunities for mentees. If there's anyone out there that is interested in becoming a mentor at a commitment of 1 to 2 hours per week, or if you or your business have a summer job opportunity that you can extend to just one youth, if you can commit to have one summer position that you will give to a kid in our juvenile mentoring program, it would make all the world of a difference, not only for that kid, but for our county as a whole. And I encourage you to sign up for that. You can go to our website, which is k3sao.com. Click on the jump button, which is for the juvenile mentoring program, and sign up right there. I really encourage you, look at the resources you have, look at your employees, extend that offer to them if they want to be mentors. Minimal commitment, major impact on the future of our county. In closing, I just want to thank our local law enforcement officers, our partners in criminal justice, our countywide officials, our department heads, all of the members of their staff and their teams, and the residents of Kankakee County. One thing I think that ultimately makes our county so unique is that whatever we go through, we get through. And it's that type of spirit of just perseverance that what we're going through now, I know we're going to come out of this stronger than ever in the long run. So on behalf of everyone in the state's attorney's office, thank you so much for this amazing opportunity to serve. And I hope everyone stays safe and stays healthy. With that said, it's now my pleasure to introduce to you one of our partners in public safety, Sheriff Mike Downey.
All right, thanks, Jim. I'm going to share this somehow. Beats the heck out of me, though. I'm not sure how to share this, so it's not, is my screen up?
No, it's not, Sheriff. Do you want me to share it on my end?
Well, there's guys, it comes up and then it says share computer sound or optimize screen sharing for video clip. But it's not letting me share this.
Here, I can share it on my end.
Well, but you can't, hang on a second.
We really appreciate everyone being here with us this morning. I know we're in a temporary hold while the sheriff gets his screen share going. But hearing from all of these agencies, the courthouse photos and the, hearing from Andy Wheeler and State's Attorney Jim Rowe on the Juvenile Mentor Program, it's just another great example of great things that are happening in our county. And that's only possible because we're all working together to do that. So we greatly appreciate that. All right, Sheriff, you are
thank God for IT. That's all I can tell you.
Almost good to go. We do see the note side of everything and not so much the presentation side.
I don't know. I don't care. Can you see the main part?
Yes, we can.
All right. We're going with that.
Okay.
So
very
actually,
good. Take it away.
That's actually just the next slide. But anyway, thank you. I apologize for my computer illiteracy when it comes to Zoom. If there's one thing that I've realized since COVID is that I hate Zoom meetings. I'd rather be in person, probably because of my lack of computer knowledge when it comes to a lot of this stuff. But nonetheless, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak to everybody here and talk about how the last year has gone with the sheriff's office and actually the last 6 months as we've all dealt with COVID. It has not been pleasant for anybody. And as Jim alluded to earlier, we are all working together to get through this, and we will continue to do so. One of the best things that we have going in Kankakee County from a law enforcement perspective is that the cooperation we have between all of our police agencies in the county. When there is a department that needs help, every department jumps in to help, regardless of what that particular department has going on. And I think that says a lot for the leadership in our county, in the police agencies, the mayors who allow it to happen. And so, people don't realize the things that we share and the resources that we share, because I truly believe that sharing resources is a cost savings to our local taxpayers. Every department doesn't have every bit of equipment, but we all share it, and that benefits everybody. So a credit to all the law enforcement agencies and municipalities out there. The information I'm going to show you is dated from October 1st. I took a year-long number for most of this information. So it's from October 1st of 2019 to September 30th of 2020. So the things you see are going to be in that year's period. The first slide, and I promised Angie I wouldn't go over my 5 minutes, so I will zip through these fairly quickly. The case reports, and this is just sheriff's office only, we're averaging about 175 case reports a month. And one of the things that I think confuses people a lot is we have incidents that happen, and we have over 10,000 that we document every year. Case reports are those reports that actually involve normally a crime and a victim, and reports are done and things are forwarded to the state's attorney's office. And in our case, about 95% of the case reports that we take are forwarded to the state's attorney's office, where they are responsible for the filing of charges. And Jim alluded to the numbers that he's dealing with, which is significantly increased over the years. So that's just a screenshot of our case reports. The next slide, if you look at, these are case reports by type, and the glaring statistic on that chart is the first one, which is domestic trouble. We talked about COVID and how it has affected the community, and domestic issues are certainly at the top of the list in what law enforcement has been dealing with. And again, this is just county. This isn't the entire county by municipality. This is just county sheriff's office response to domestic cases. So obviously, the domestic issues over the course of this year, a lot because of COVID, has gone up significantly. And if you look, these case reports, just to show everybody that this is not unique to one particular area. These are case reports that we've taken all over the county. So that gives you some perspective. One of the functions of the sheriff's office is to serve civil papers, civil process. And obviously, we serve those papers all around the county, including in the municipalities. None of the municipality police agencies serve papers. That is a county function. So if you notice where in the middle here, where I'm circling, that's the city of Kankakee. There is significant paper service there. That is obviously our most populated area. And so when people see sheriff's office or sheriff's deputies in a municipality, a lot of times that's what we're doing, is serving papers. So, and we also serve those all across the county as well. These are arrests by month. And if you look at April, May, and June, our arrests per month were down significantly. However, COVID did not stop crime. And, we continued from April, May, and June, the end of March, which is really when a lot of the shutdown started. We continued to take in new arrests by everyone in the county. So that did, crime, while it was affected a little bit by the number of arrests, it was still out there, and our officers, the first responders, the ambulance drivers, the firefighters, all were dealing with the general public during this pandemic and putting themselves out there And I can tell you that all of them did a fantastic job in avoiding the potential for passing on COVID. So credit to them. Our agency bookings, our average length of stay, a lot of people want to know how long somebody stays in jail. Our average length of stay in the middle here is 18.4 days. And that is actually high compared to a lot of other jails. But that 18.4 number includes everybody. It includes somebody arrested for, let's say, for instance, a DUI where they may be in our jail for 2 or 3 hours and they post bond. And it includes those who are charged with serious offenses like murder who have been here for upwards of 2 years waiting trial. One of the numbers that really sticks out is if you look at our total bookings of 2,600 and the total inmates of 2,100, that means that there's been 500 individuals who have been booked into our facility on more than one occasion in the last year. So that's a little bit significant when we talk about recidivism and those that are booked into our facility. This the next slide, our warrants issued. During that time frame, there's been over 1,600 warrants issued in that year. We do have over 5,500 active warrants out there. And one of the glaring numbers is the failure to appear of 1,427 individuals who have failed to appear for the court date. And, you know, it's frustrating on a law enforcement end because what happens is an individual gets arrested, gets released from jail, goes to court, and fails to appear in court. And one of those problems with that is their failure to appear in court affects our entire system. It affects our entire criminal justice system, from the courts, the state's attorney's office, the circuit clerk, our public defender, the sheriff's office, and the jail. In addition, when law enforcement attempts to serve a warrant, it creates the potential for life-threatening situations for law enforcement, for the offender, and in some cases, innocent bystanders. The unfortunate part is we don't do, and I say we as a system, we don't do a good enough job in our county in holding people accountable for showing up to court. And that's what happens. And so law enforcement ends up spending a lot of their time dealing with these warrants as opposed to doing normal patrol and things like that that are serving our community. So, you know, one thing that we plan to work on significantly over the course of the next few years is to get this failure to appear number down and get people to show up to court, go through their process, and let the court system work the way it's supposed to. That's the warrants that are issued for the year. Our total bookings, if you look, you know, March was still somewhat high because the COVID shutdown really didn't start till towards the end of March, and then April, May, and June, and you can see that number trending up, and we're almost back to where we were back in January and February pre-COVID. So those numbers continue to move up. As most of you know, we do house for the U.S. Marshals, and their bookings by month, you can look at April and May as well and see that COVID had an impact on us housing for the feds, which obviously affects some of our revenue. However, we felt it more important to limit the number of people who were coming into our jail from outside of our area. We felt that was more important than bringing in revenue just to bring in revenue. So we didn't want to get into that possibility of bringing COVID in. So we limited the number of U.S. Marshal prisoners, as well as ICE. We also house for immigration. And you can see that in April, May, June, and July, our numbers were very limited. And for the same reason, we did not want to bring in people from outside of our county that would potentially bring ICE into, or bring COVID into our facilities. So I can't credit our jail staff enough for their ability to keep COVID out of our jail. I can tell you, and although we've not shared this, we did just have our first 2 cases of COVID in our downtown jail last week. However, the protocols that we put in place, we were able to limit it. And those 2 who are asymptomatic are quarantined away from the general population. And as of now, we're still at that number 2 of those who have tested positive for COVID. So we knew it was inevitable. I think we were fortunate that we were able to wait or to hold it off for 6 months before it got here. But by the protocols we had in place and the jail staff that followed those protocols, we were able to keep it out of here. And once these 2 recover, hopefully we'll continue to keep it out of here. So credit to them. The average daily population, everybody wants to know what our average daily population is. And this is by year, actually. So this dates all the way back to 2005, with the yellow being our local population and our green being our out-of-county population. So those numbers have dropped significantly. The out-of-county numbers have dropped significantly. Our local numbers actually continue to rise. So we do keep an eye on that, and we do work with the state's attorney's office to see who we can possibly get out of jail who may not be a threat to our community. So we do that pretty regularly. One of the things that people don't understand is the square miles that we patrol. Kankakee County is 680 square miles, and the municipalities cover about 44 square miles. So technically, the county is patrolling about 636 square miles when we go from Reddick to Grant Park, Mantino in the northwest, to Moments and Hopkins Park and Pembroke area in the southeast. It's a lot of area to cover. And so I always want to show this because I think people forget that we are a big county square mile wise. So. And then our constituents served. The county sheriff's office serves in the unincorporated area just over 34,000 residents of the county, and the second largest being the city of Kankakee at 26,000. So we do serve. We do serve a large number of those in the unincorporated area. And 2 other things, and I'll close real quick. We did get a grant for 2 school resource officers. We are utilizing one right now in the Career Center, who is actually in class. We have not deployed the second school resource officer because we are waiting for schools to get back in session on a more full-time basis whenever that may happen. And then lastly, we did take over animal control last December 1st, and I can tell you that things with animal control are going really well, and the director of animal control is doing a great job, and we look forward to working with all the municipalities and making sure that our local animals are well taken care of. So again, I appreciate the opportunity. I hope that information was valuable for all. And at this time, I will turn it over to County Board Member Chad Miller, the president of the Kankakee County Farm Bureau. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Sheriff. And I appreciate the opportunity to share our information here. Thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for holding this forum. I've got a lot of information here to cover, so I'm going to do it as quickly as possible. Again, I'm Chad Miller, the manager of the Kankakee County Farm Bureau. Going to start here with information about the County Farm Bureau. I'm not seeing, there we are. The Kankakee County Farm Bureau is a nonprofit membership organization which advocates for farmers and landowner rights since 1912. We were one of the first county farm bureaus in the state to have formed. We're a voluntary membership organization, and we're governed by 17 local Kankakee County farmers. Our main priorities, as you can see there, relate to education. Education to our elected officials so that they understand the importance of our agriculture industry. Education to farmers so that they know the latest news and information and technology in the agriculture industry. and then education to non-farmers so that the consumers understand where their food comes from and how it's produced. We also have a Kankakee County Farm Bureau Foundation, which accepts tax-deductible donations to provide scholarships to Kankakee County students furthering their education in agriculture. And since we've been awarding scholarships starting in 2005, we have awarded $108,500 to local Kankakee County students studying agriculture. And our Farm Bureau Foundation also supports our agriculture literacy and Ag in the Classroom program. So why is agriculture important to our community? It is 72% of our land in Kankakee County is devoted to agricultural production, which is nearly 17% of our local Kankakee County economy. And 1 in 12 jobs in Kankakee County relate to our agriculture industry. And over 1.5 billion with a B is generated annually from our Kankakee County agriculture. So it's a big part of our local economy. The Kankakee County Farm Bureau monitors land use issues. And one of those here, we toured the solar farm just east of the city of Kankakee last week. This Summit Ridge Energy Solar Farm is located just south of Benoit Pumpkin Farm and Benoit Greenhouses. This Summit Ridge Energy Solar Farm provides enough energy for 400 homes. They broke ground in July, and they expect to be producing electricity by next month and fully operational, fully done with construction by next February. There are 8 solar farms in Kankakee County under construction, and touring this one here and asking questions about impacts to area farmland, drainage, and decommissioning issues important to agriculture was great to accomplish there. So the Farm Bureau continues to monitor land use issues. Also held this summer, the Kankakee County Soil and Water Conservation District held a field day for farmers and ag retailers in order to promote the use of cover crop. Crops are grown on farmland in between the cash crop growing seasons. So cover crops are grown not for sale or for harvest, but primarily farmers can implement the growth of cover crops to hold nutrients on the soil, reduce erosion, and improve organic matter content in the soil and improve soil profile. There is an investment to growing cover crops on your farmland. So this field day held by the Soil and Water Conservation District was showing an example of the return on the investment and the benefits of using cover crops on the farm. Obviously, growing cover crops can improve the farmer's economics, but it can also improve our environment. September 3rd, we partnered with the Chamber of Commerce and held the legislative reception. And at that legislative reception with the Chamber of Commerce, we announced that U.S. Congresswoman Robin Kelly would be receiving the Friend of Agriculture Award. So earlier this month, we met with U.S. Congresswoman Robin Kelly in person at Clay Abbott's farm just east of Momence and presented that award to her in person. We want to thank Congresswoman Robin Kelly again for her accessibility and her willingness to gain the perspective of our agriculture community. We appreciate that support. Now we'll get into the harvest report and what things are looking like for the 2020 harvest. Harvest in Kankakee County started around the 4th week of September, and the weather has been very dry up until last weekend. We had some minimal precipitation, but that wasn't enough to keep farmers out of the field for very long. But has been not as challenging as last year. If you remember, last year there were a lot of fields that had to be replanted and a lot of fields that never did get planted with their crops. But this year's growing season, we did have a few heavy rains in the spring that made it necessary to replant some of the farm crops. But the growing season then, June and July, everything was nearly ideal conditions, and our corn and soybeans really showed a lot of promise. But then when August arrived, it got really hot and dry, and it's been dry ever since. So that diminished some of the potential yields that we had out there. One farmer locally here that keeps meticulous records compared this year's growing season and this year's yields to his 10-year average on his farm. Compared to his 10-year average, his corn this year was about 20% than his 10-year average, and his soybeans this year were about 15% less yield than his 10-year average. So we're seeing that across the board here in Kankakee County, that yields are a little bit lower than average. They're not terrible, but they're below average. Statewide, we've got about 70% of our corn harvested and about 90% of the beans are done. There's some local farmers here in Kankakee County that are already done with their soybean harvest. And over the next week or two, if the weather holds nicely, they might be wrapping up their corn harvest. Impacts of COVID-19 on agriculture. Locally, it's been fairly minimal. Farmers, you could say, are the original social distancers. They're in their combine cab or their tractor cab out in the middle of a farm field. They're pretty far away from anybody else. So it hasn't had a big effect here locally. Nationally and worldwide, we did see the agricultural commodity markets slide and decline when COVID first caused a lot of shutdowns in March. Fortunately, some of those agricultural commodity markets have rebounded here over the last week. It's been found that some of the supply isn't as big as what was thought. And so, of course, supply and demand, when there's less supply, the demand increases. And then over the last couple of weeks, China over ag commodities. So that has caused a rebound in the ag commodity markets, which is going to help some farmers be in the black this year due to that market rebound. Soybean prices, they're about $1.30 higher than what they were in the spring. So that is a big help. Other impacts to COVID or other impacts to agriculture due to COVID. You probably heard there were some meat processing facilities that had a hard time keeping their employees healthy and safe. So that caused a bottleneck when the meat processors couldn't process the livestock that farmers were producing. That caused a backup on the farms, and then that caused a scarcity of meat products in the grocery store in the spring and summer. They've kind of figured some of that out, but COVID-19 has exposed some of the weaknesses in the food production chain, and hopefully those things will be addressed in case we see some of this coming back again. Again, the growing season wasn't too bad here locally. That August 10th, we had that strong windstorm that came through that did do some damage to some crops here locally, and some damage to some farm operations, bins, and other equipment. But we didn't see the damage from that August 10th storm like Iowa did. I saw a report the other day that said that storm that came through Iowa did about $14 billion worth of damage there. So we're lucky that we didn't see that damage here quite as extensive. Due to that dry weather we had during harvest is moving along very quickly, but with that dry weather, it also, you can see the drought monitor. If you say Illinois, you can see that Kankakee County is abnormally dry. That dry weather increases the risk for combine fires. This picture was taken last Wednesday just outside of Herscher. Obviously, that's going to be a total loss to that piece of equipment. That's a combine. Combines can range anywhere from 300,000 to 400,000 plus. So that's a big hit. That'll set back that farm's operation a little bit here, obviously during harvest. So be mindful that there's increased risk when we've had this dry weather. Other things to mention here as I wrap up, the 2021 Kankakee County Plat book is available for sale. We just received these last Thursday from the printer, so you're hearing it here first, that the Kankakee County Plat book is available for sale. We produce these about every 3 years, so come to the Farm Bureau office and pick up your new Kankakee County Plat book that shows land ownership and all kinds of other good information. Other things I want to mention here before I close. Last March was supposed to have been our 20th anniversary of our Kids Day at the Farm program. That's where we bring in all the fourth graders throughout the county to learn all about the different segments of agriculture. We probably won't be able to be doing this program this spring either. When you have 1,400 people all in one place over a 2-day period, it's very unlikely that we're going to be able to do that this year. So we are working to produce a virtual Kids Day at the Farm this year that we're going to push out to the fourth grade classrooms this spring. We're working with Jesse Arsenault and his company to produce this virtual Kids Day at the Farm program, and it's coming together nicely, and we're really excited to see that come together. One more reminder, harvest season is now. Share the road. Farm machinery is large, it's heavy, it moves slowly, so give it some space, give it some room to operate. Farmers don't want to be on the roadway any more than what you want to see them on the roadway, but they do need to move from field to field to harvest our world's crops. This picture was taken last week near Clifton. Obviously, that's an accident that happened on the roadway, and you can see there's some grain here on the ground, and a grain wagon, pickup truck, and a semi truck here hauling grain. So just another reminder, be safe on the roadways. as the County Farm Bureau is a nonprofit membership organization which advocates for agriculture in your community since 1912. If you're not a member of the County Farm Bureau, please consider joining to support our efforts through a membership. If you're not a farmer, you can still join as an associate member. We have about 1,100 farmer members in the Kankakee County Farm Bureau and about 3,000 associate members who join for a variety of different reasons, but the main reasons that associate members join the Farm Bureau is to gain access to our discounts and benefits, including access to country financial insurance. One more reminder, it's harvest time. Slow down, share the road, save lives. And if you haven't voted yet, remember to vote. Your vote counts. Thank you again to the Chamber of Commerce for holding this forum. And thank you also to our members of the radio and print media for helping to share our agricultural news throughout the year. Thank you again. Up next, we've got Stacy Wilkin from the Kankakee County Convention and Visitors Bureau that's going to take it away. Thank you again and enjoy the rest of your day.
Awesome. Thanks, Chad. Can everybody see? All right. Well, Mayor Shore, I'm glad to know that you are wearing sweatpants. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to start by thanking both the Kankakee County and Manteno Chambers for your work on behalf of the business community in Kankakee County. I looked at my notes from last year and I opened with 2019, a year for the record books. I actually laughed at that version of myself, thinking that a funding battle was the worst thing that could happen to the organization. But 2020 said, here, hold my beer. Okay, let's see. Since 1983, the CVB has been challenged to promote and champion Kankakee County as an overnight visitor destination. Our strategies and projects have been aimed at highlighting the unique experiences spanning 22 communities, 6 members of our intergovernmental agreement, 11 organizations represented on our board of directors, and DCO's Illinois Office of Tourism. Each summer, the state releases economic impact numbers by county for the previous year. If you would, flash back with me to 2019 when Kankakee County contributed to the state's added economic domestic growth with close to $157 million in travel expenditures, a 4.1% increase over 2018, and $4.2 million in local tax revenue, a 5.3% increase over 2018. More than 1,800 jobs were created across the state as a result of visitor spending, with 20 of them right here in Kankakee County. Oh, excuse me. The tourism and hospitality industry has been one of the hardest hit these past 8 months. Many of our hoteliers are on the call today, and I'd like to recognize your resiliency. 2 properties, 1 a remodel and 1 a new build, completed projects amidst the pandemic. Several others answered the call when asked to provide emergency temporary occupancy. Operating on a skeleton crew, their team sanitized and provided safe lodging for healthcare workers, first responders, asymptomatic persons choosing to self-quarantine, or potential overflow of patients from healthcare facilities. So on behalf of the CVB and all of our guests today, we thank you. Early in the year, we received the call from the Chicago Bears that they would be relocating training camp to Hallis Hall, their recently renovated corporate headquarters in the northwest suburbs. Surprised as we all were, we knew the day would come and are grateful for the time they spent on the beautiful campus of Olivet Nazarene University. When asked by the media how it would impact the region, my answer was not a resounding, it's going to ruin us, but the training camp was merely the hook to get folks to our community. The reasons that we encourage guests to stay a couple nights have not changed. We ended training camp on a high note, having hosted our annual on-site event in partnership with the Economic Alliance that introduced a major developer to the city of Kankakee, and as we speak, are working toward making a major capital investment in their downtown. Proof that tourism truly is the first state of economic development. The loss of Bike 609, our community bike share, was an early byproduct of the COVID-19 shutdown. Unfortunately, this otherwise successful program, like the hundreds of others under the Zagster umbrella across the country, went on lockdown and never came back online. The company filed for dissolution and the 50 bikes were stored in the CVB office until they were picked up in early August. Thank you to the many sponsors and location partners, Turn of the Wheel, and the writers that supported the program. Micromobility is here to stay, and I hope that someday soon we can provide a similar program. Today, the CVB consists of myself and our part-time finance manager, Mylene Joins. Together, we purged, sorted, and packed our 4,000 square foot office and put it all into a storage unit. Moving forward, I will be working remote and plan on making plenty of coffee and lunch dates to get me out of the house. I'd like to thank Mylene and my former team for their dedication to the organization. As you can see, we ended the fiscal year with close to 50% of our total revenue sitting in an escrow account. We have also been informed that our state grant for FY21 has been reduced by 50%. The CVB board has been proactive in passing a conservative budget that will allow us to operate, but as expected, greatly reduce the output of the organization. We will be taking steps to leverage organic marketing efforts and foster existing relationships, as well as explore new opportunities to work together. Excuse me. We've recently partnered with the Economic Alliance, Raven Spring Creative, excuse me, I'm having a moment here, on Zoom for everyone to see. We've recently partnered with the Economic Alliance, Raven Spring Creative, and local businesses to produce Venture Kankakee County, a 45-minute webinar highlighting the livability of the region, as well as the newly renovated Student Success Center at Kankakee Community College. This project was funded in part by the Grand Victoria Grant administered by the Community Foundation of the Kankakee River Valley. We look forward to being at the table for conversations related to the industry, whether it's trails and bikes, agritourism business, workforce retention and attraction, river safety, or real estate potential. Our 2020 challenge is not only to find ways to grow the region, but to aid in the COVID recovery by creating unique and free ways to promote safe opportunities to enjoy our indoor attractions and outdoor experiences, one of which is the Currents of Kankakee, the new riverfront district first described in the 2018 Riverfront Master Plan that will help transform the region's image. The concept of regionalism is not a natural phenomenon and definitely means something different to everyone. I was at a conference recently and the presenter asked if the CVB hosted a party, what would it look like? I think it would look like this. Partners that span different industries but share the same goal, getting talent to Kankakee County. Our combined efforts, when you really boil it down, is to attract, retain, and develop our workforce. We just each use a different channel to share our message. When we promote museums and the arts, it brings people to the community that will dine in our restaurants or stop for gas. When we promote our attractions and experiences, it can catch the attention of a major developer. When we promote our quality of life, it brings people to the community that will consider relocating. When we promote our communities, it can encourage locals to change the way they think and speak when asked about where they choose to live. When we promote regionalism, it says that Kankakee County is better together. Tourism is not just heads and beds. As Kankakee native and friend of the industry Bill Geist references in his book, Destination Leadership, it's cheeks and seats, torsos through turnstiles, feet on the streets, fans in the stands, and more in the store. Tourism dollars don't know political boundaries, and neither should we. We each have different agendas, different backgrounds, new ideas, and varying points of view. We see men and women of all shapes, sizes, and colors working to make a better Kankakee County. And it seems that I'm developing a trend at these annual events, and this year is no different. So my challenge to us all is to lean into the fear that COVID has brought us, to take a moment to pause and ask ourselves, why not? Why not Kankakee County? I want to thank our board for their leadership and my tribe for riding this roller coaster with me. I look forward to promoting Kankakee County from a different address, but with the same enthusiasm and professionalism as always. Thank you. And now I'll turn it over to my friend at the Economic Alliance, Tim Nugent.
Thanks, Stacy, and we'll try to get the screen shared here. I appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about the economy in Kankakee County and what's been taking place over the last, last 12 months. I want to go through a little bit, talk about what our distinctions are. Numbers that kind of set our area apart and why, what are the things that have been happening in Kankakee County. Then I'll talk a little bit about the COVID-19 impact on employment, hospitality, residential, industrial, and then the outlook of where we're heading. 2019 distinctions that we have, things that set our area apart. Well, Kankakee County MSA is the #1 MSA in the Midwest for 5-year job and wage growth. This is a study that's done by Area Development Magazine, and they examine all the MSAs throughout the United States. And in 2019, they came out with the fourth quarter that the Kankakee County MSA was the #1 in 5-year job and wage growth. Now, 5-year job and wage growth, it's an important thing because this is something, like I say, over the course of the last 5 years, they've seen that our job growth has increased dramatically, and with that, the wages have gone up also. We're also not, an area that is 92% of the U.S. average for cost of living. That means in the average U.S. city where it costs $100 for something, in Kankakee County, it costs $92. So we are actually below the average cost of living, which to attract people to live here is a good thing. One of the reasons that we're have a lower cost of living is because of the investments that have taken place. Over the last 5 years, we've had upwards of over $2 billion of investment that have taken place here in Kankakee County. And we're considered #1 in the small metro for job and tech growth according to Millikan University, and #6 in the United States for cost of doing business from Forbes magazines. These are all accolades that the county's received because of the activity that's taken place here over the last 5 years. But over the last 6 months, 8 months, what happened? What's the COVID-19 impact? Well, you can see here from the chart that we were at almost record unemployment rates. We were down to 4% was our unemployment rate, which was dramatically lower than you see that it's been for years and years. And then when March came along and COVID hit, we dropped. In April, or we drastically went up. In April, we spiked up at over 15% in unemployment. Looking at the map, we've come back down a little bit. We're currently at 8.9% unemployment. And the reason that I showed the map is because historically, Kankakee County has had a higher unemployment rate than most of the collar counties around the Chicago area, most of the metro region. We're always 1 or 2% higher than what they are. But since COVID hit, we've been below what the collar counties are, the metro counties. So at 8.9%, while it's drastically higher, it's considerably less than what a lot of the metro counties are. And that's one of the reasons for that is because of the makeup of our workforce. As Stacy talked about earlier, one of the industries that was hit hard was the hospitality industry. Because the hospitality industry is centered more up in the metro area, they have a lot more issues with their unemployment rate. I have a lot more people that have been affected. We are always in Kankakee County, normally above the statewide unemployment rate. But as you can see here, 10.9% statewide unemployment, we're below that. So we hit a peak of 15.7. We're coming back down. The people are going back to work, and while we are higher than we'd like to be, we're in a lot better shape than what a lot of other areas throughout the state of Illinois are in. What's been the COVID-19 impact on hospitality? Well, like I say, as Stacy talked, they got hit hard. In Kankakee County, they went from over 4,200 workers, and they lost thousands of workers over the course of the last 6 months. The bars, the restaurants, the hotels, everybody in the hospitality industry has really borne the brunt of some of these issues that we've had. And now with the new mitigation efforts that just got announced yesterday, they're the ones that are going to be taking a lot of the brunt again. That industry has been hit harder than any industry in the state. Like I say, luckily it hasn't impacted our area as much, but the reason is because we don't have as many hotels, bars, restaurants as they do up in some of the metro areas. However, the ones that we do have are really feeling the pain, and so they need as much support as we can possibly give them. We don't want to get through this thing and lose any more of the restaurants, bars, and hotels than we absolutely have to. Most of these places are small family businesses, and we need to support them as much as we can. While COVID-19 impact on the unemployment rate has gone one direction, as far as residential sales in the Kankakee County area, it's actually made an improvement. We've got a 17.1% increase in closed sales of residences in Kankakee County over the course of the last several months. 28.2% change in the median sale price. And the inventory for residential in Kankakee County is 43% lower than it was in the past. So while COVID has had negative impacts in some industry, if you're a realtor, you're busier than ever. We're told from residential realtors and commercial realtors alike that the business is better than it's ever been. There's several reasons. One, because of the record low interest rates, but people are investing more in houses now. They're staying home more, so they're spending more on taking care of their homes and deciding, hey, maybe we should make that change and buy a bigger house, or make it change and downsize. So sales of real estate has really taken off. So as one industry suffers, another industry gains. And also there's obviously we see the need for other types of housing. Recently, the Village of Bourbonnais has changed their ordinances for multifamily rental and has authorized the construction of a number of different rental units. The city of Kankakee is taking steps to try to get residential in downtown area. And there's currently about 463 units on the drawing boards for potential construction over the course of the next several years. So as far as the multifamily market, it's strong, and it looks like it's going to get stronger as long as things stay the same. COVID-19 impact on industrial. Well, we've got a lot of essential workers here, and we have a lot of essential companies. Over the course of the last several months, we've had the McKesson organization, McKesson Company, has leased a 576,000 square foot warehouse at Diversitech in Manteno, hiring over 600 people for COVID-19 response. That these are jobs that are being created in Kankakee County because of the COVID epidemic. Lowe's signed a long-term lease at the recently vacated Sears warehouse up in Diversitech. They leased 1.4 million square foot of space and are building their Midwest distribution capacity right here in Kankakee County. So while Sears vacated the area and left, Lowe's came in and took over that facility. And same thing with the McKesson building. There was a company called Mars there before. They left, but it brought in the ability to bring in another company. Recently, Spikeball, a company that we had a warehouse in Bradley, their success has given them the opportunity to need more space, and they recently purchased a 51,000 square foot Midwest distribution center here in Kankakee. Spikeball owner Chris Reuter appeared on Shark Tank several years ago, and since then his business has taken off, but he's never forgotten his Kankakee roots and has his warehouse here in Kankakee and employs a lot of people. Also, just recently, the Greater Kankakee Airport has decided to reposition itself as a potential regional logistics hub. Just yesterday, I met with representatives from the airport, and they want to see what they can do with the land that they have surrounding that area and try to get more use out of that amenity that we have. The Greater Kankakee Airport is a great amenity to have right along I-57 with a lot of land available that has water, sewer, and a lot of different capacity. And the board now is in a position where they'd like to see that promoted more. Healthcare, obviously Riverside Hospital, if you've gone up Route 45 and recently you saw the steel up, and now you see the walls are up on their $24 million, 75,000 square foot orthopedic and spine center. And a little farther north of Riverside, the Oak Orthopedics $15.5 million, 43,700 square foot medical campus is underway. Dirt is being moved for those. So the healthcare industry is thriving even in our COVID epidemic times. The manufacturing, CSL Bearing, luckily we've got a global life science leader here that they continue to spend money and do construction there. And they're also working to respond to the pandemic and working with companies around the world on a potential COVID-19 plasma alliance and working to try to come up with a vaccine that hopefully could come out of the CSL companies. And just recently, last week, the city of Kankakee and the Economic Alliance were with a company that is looking to build a multinational plant here, bringing jobs back from China and build a facility here in the city of Kankakee We were here looking at all the different amenities hosted by the City of Kankakee, touring the Kankakee Community College, the MITC facility that they had, and looking to see where they might bring their production facility. And Kankakee is on the short list for that. So as far as what about the community and the amenity impact? Well, if you also have been following the news, you'll see that everybody has decided that, that amenities are something that we need. In the COVID-19 era, people are sticking closer to home and they want more things to do here in the area. The Village of Bourbonnais has been working over the past several months doing surveys and coming up with a community campus plan. The City of Kankakee obviously has been working on their Kankakee Skylar streetscape and continue to promote their area around the riverfront, and continue to have the Riverfront Society moving forward to try to do things and create amenities in the City of Kankakee. And just last week, the Village of Bradley hosted a Northfield Square Mall Zoom call to try to come up with ideas and propose different things that could happen with Northfield Square Mall, realizing that the retail days for the mall are probably not going to return like they were before, and that the mall needs to be repurposed for other uses. So moving ahead, where do we go? We have to continue to have a coordinated COVID-19 response. We're going to be looking for more green space. We're going to be looking to support more small businesses, and all the social service agencies need to continue to work together. The Alliance is going to continue to work on aligning careers and talent for the jobs that we have, working with entrepreneurs to try to develop new businesses, get people who have been laid off to get reskilled and to become essential workers, so they potentially can avoid layoff in the future, and get more people involved, more people, have more ethnic alliances with organizations to probably bring new people into the workforce. Continue to keep our cost of living low, cost of doing business low, keep the law enforcement involved in everything, all the decisions that are made here to try to make this community better and better. And if anybody has any information, any ideas, things that the Alliance can be doing, my contact information is here, and we certainly appreciate the Chamber taking this opportunity to let the Economic Alliance give a little update about what's taken place here over the last 12 months. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to LaDonna Russell, Executive Director of the Grundy, Livingston, Kankakee Workforce Board.
Thanks, Tim. Let me share my screen here. Thank you, everyone. As Tim said, my name is LaDonna Russell. I'm with the Grundy Livingston Kankakee Workforce Board. We are the Workforce Board oversees Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act funds, WIOA funds, which is a federal Department of Labor program whose purpose of these funds is to ensure there's a skilled workforce for employers. The Workforce Board is made up of volunteers from employers, economic development, other partner agencies such as IDS, to ensure that we're all coming together to make sure, again, to ensure that the skills are necessary in the community so the employers can be successful. So our program year is the state fiscal year, so it starts July 1st. So for program year 20, we have received 2.16 million, with approximately 60% is actually budgeted for Kankakee County. Again, these funds are really actually to serve two populations. We have funds to serve employers and funds to serve residents and individuals through the Kankakee Workforce Services offices, which is funded by these funds. So as Tim and everyone has said, there was like a pre-COVID and a post-COVID workforce. So as for pre-COVID, we are really looking, and as Tim said in the charts on unemployment, really looking at full employment. As you can see in the chart over here, as of March 2020, there was 2,200 individuals unemployed. So that was the part that was making up our unemployment rate of 4.2%. But there was actually 4,000, a little over 4,000 jobs posted online for that month. So we actually had, full employment. Employers were looking for workers. Workforce was actually, it continues to be one of the main issues we've been talking with employers about. So one of the opportunities that as a workforce board we were doing is something called the Graduate and Get Paid program. So after our last State of the County, last November, it was a program that is really opening the eyes of both the high school seniors and, what is available in the community, understanding for the youth, what jobs are there, what are the career pathways, what are the training opportunities. And so the Workforce Board wanted to expand that. So we did what's called an educator tour. So we invited educators from every high school and in the Career Center district. So we had 23 educators on the tour. Every participating high school in Kankakee County participated, and we had high school participation from Clifton Central, Beecher, Watsika, Peatone, so really within the commuting area of Kankakee County. We went and visited 4 employers. So thank you to CSL and Nicor, Pettinghouse, and St. Mary's. And a great response. Educators really didn't know what was in the community. They drive past the buildings. They didn't really understand what was being made, all the skills needed for those positions. And we wrapped it really up with presentations by KCC, understanding all the different career opportunities, all the different career pathways that are available to their students. So we're hoping, we wanted to do the student tour. We are planning it. So that's where we take the students out to local manufacturing facilities, local employers, given a diversity of industries. Unfortunately, we're in the middle of the planning of that process when COVID hit, so that was actually postponed. So we are going to continue to do this after the pandemic. It really is an eye-opener to both the students and the youth and the educators after the pandemic. The other thing that is really important to point out that for that creating the talent pipeline is there's a partnership with the Economic Alliance and KCC and the Career Center. It's called a program called Career Coach, and there's the link for the website. So the Career Coach is a program that is individuals take a quick assessment inventory, if you like something, if you don't like something, and it gives them results based off what your likes are, what you like about different things, what careers match your personality. But the great thing about Career Coach is that then it takes it a step further. It takes it and shows you local wages and local job opportunities, and it takes you to the local training programs. So for example, if I wanted and I matched to being a registered nurse, it'll show me what are the local wages for registered nursing and what is the training opportunities at KCC, and then it will actually show you local jobs in the community. So it really is your one-stop shop for figuring out your career pathways and your careers. So highly recommend that program. So then you have COVID hit, and Tim went over these slides, so I'm not going to go through them a lot, but basically you can see these, the red is your initial UI claims for that month. So you can see, January through February, very minor. This is, seasonal. These are the amount of new unemployment claims for the month. And then you really get into the shutdown and COVID. April skyrocketed, as you can see. And the blue line is the actual unemployment rate. So you can see, our actual unemployment rate for Kankakee County, COVID, and as you can see, it is slowly, as the economy reopened, it is going in a downward trend. So again, that is due to multiple industries, essential workforce, and so forth, diversity of our industries. So then I was getting the questions during this time, well, who is affected by COVID? What is the makeup? What industries are affected? What occupations are affected? And so there's a report out on IDS website called The Characteristics of the Unemployed. So this looks at the number of UI claimants for, usually it's like the 12th day in the month. And so as you can see for Kankakee County, and I only put two months here, you can see that this is the industries and the percentage that it affected, and then this is the August. So this is the August is the last month that is available for data. And it shows what we expected, leisure and hospitality, as Tim said. You can also show that the health services has also been affected as one of the major contributors to our unemployment rate. And if you think about it, we were all told to stay home. not to go use the hospital, not to go to our doctor's office, not to get services for healthcare. And so that is also to be expected because doctors weren't seeing people. And so as we continue to go in this COVID time, and I do have to say that in both the hospital systems and their networks of doctors, it's safe to go use the hospitals and go see your doctors, and so that is why that is high. Again, the number one occupation making up the unemployment rate is your food service. Down here at the bottom, I think this is interesting, is that for your education, those with high school diploma are the most affected by COVID. They are making almost 60% of our claims of unemployment. So, talking and continuing the discussions that, Workforce Development has, the Alliance has, and we all have about continuing on to some credential, continuing to upgrade your skill set. We will continue those discussions on the workforce services side. Not only do you make more money as you get more skills, but actually, during these times, it's important to understand that, essential workers, as you got to some college, unemployment actually decreased. So what has workforce services done to help during this time? So during the pandemic, we applied for and awarded $131,000 and some change in grant funds to help employers to avoid layoffs. So these funds we have issued to employers to secure the necessary supplies and equipment to keep employees working. So this includes such as PPE, maybe laptops to work remotely, and so that the employers didn't have to lay off employees. So I want to thank actually the Chambers of Commerce and Economic Alliance. So they helped the Workforce Board get the word out about this program to ensure that the employers knew about it and could apply for it. In addition, we worked with Chairman Wheeler with the Kankakee County Board, recognizing there's a need for, with the high unemployment rate, the number of people unemployed, for additional funds to help these individuals who have been laid off for COVID get the skills necessary, as Tim said, to be an essential worker. So the Workforce Board was awarded additional $300,000 approximately to help dislocated workers who have been affected by COVID get the skills necessary to upgrade their skill set. In addition, we were awarded additional $60,000 in technical assistance funds to really figure out how to better serve our employers, how to reach out to that employer community, how to ensure the small businesses in our community are aware of our services, and we can help them as we do with our larger employers. Last year, fiscal year, again, from July 1st of 2019 to June 2020, we awarded $56,300 to local employers for incumbent worker training. So that incumbent worker training program is for employers to offset training their current workforce. So it's for training your current employees. And we have funding for additional projects. So if you're an employer out there who's looking to upgrade your skill set of your employment, doing some training for your current employees that are currently employed, please give me a call and so we can just discuss how we can partner to give you some training funds for your projects. On the Kankakee Workforce Services side, so the Kankakee, as with everything, shut down at the end of March and learned how to do everything remotely. What we do a lot of it is face-by-face, walking people through, and so it was a big change. And so we started to use our social media really more effectively, how to push more stuff out there, how do we provide our services virtually. And so from March through May, which is the height of the pandemic, our Facebook post reach were 61,000, which is way above than what they were in prior months. In the program year, we issued 191 training scholarships. So for different training programs through Kankakee Community College. And this piece I thought was interesting as I was going through what to talk about, is that 100% of our dislocated workers found employment after using our services and on the program in the program year that just finished. So every dislocated worker who came in was on our program. We provided services, provided training scholarships, provided maybe resume assistant, career assistance, employment assistance, and so forth. 100% of them, every single one, found a job after we left. Our current office, which is located within the Kankakee Community College North Extension Center, is actually open right now by appointment only. Even though went back to restore Plan 3, we are still open by appointment only, but we will ensure that we still only hit the numbers that are affected. So if you know anybody who has been affected by COVID, is laid off, please call the office, and so we can help them with their reemployment. I have to say this publicly, is that my Kankakee Workforce Services staff has done an amazing job during these times to go from being on site, doing things, in person, to now doing things virtually, doing things and continue to help people to, when the COVID hit, we were getting tons of unemployment calls and figuring it out, and we created step-by-step processes. And, they really try to do their best to help the residents of Kankakee County with their workforce needs. And so I just wanted to publicly say thank you to all of them for doing a great job as we continue during this pandemic. My last page here is just my contact information. So if you're interested in any workforce services, want to talk about incumbent worker training, or if you know anybody who needs services, who has been laid off due to COVID, we have funds. And so please contact Dr. Dana Washington. She's actually the Director of Workforce Services at the Kankakee Workforce Services office. And here is her contact information. So yeah, we got $2.1 million to serve residents in our 3 county. We got an additional $300,000 to serve those individuals due to COVID. And so we are here to help anybody with their workforce services needs. So thank you. And I have the privilege of introducing Nicole Smilkovich, who is the Director of the Community Foundation. Nicole, you getting up and running here?
Here we go. All right, I think we're ready. All right, well, thank you for having me today, and thank you to the Kankakee County Chamber and to all the sponsors who support this event. I believe this is the 4th year I'm up here, so this is great. Our mission is to connect people who care with causes that matter in our community. And by community, we mean Kankakee and Iroquois counties. Today, I will focus on our assets and funds, as well as the grants that we have given over the past year. I will also talk about our response to COVID-19 and an update on our mental health program called Project Sun. At the end of 2019, we had just surpassed $10.1 million in assets. When COVID hit and investments declined, it dropped our assets to $8.7 million at the end of the first quarter. As the economy has slowly come back, so have our assets, and we are back up to just over $9 million at the end of the second quarter, and our investments have continued to grow in the third quarter, pushing us closer to that 10 million mark again, and we hope to be back there by year end. In the community foundation world, we talk about permanently endowed funds and temporarily restricted funds. Permanently endowed funds are just that. They are permanent and can never be touched for grant distribution. And temporarily restricted funds are the funds used to distribute grant dollars. And this is where the earned interest from our investment goes. As you can see, just over 3/4 of our funds are permanently endowed. In this graph, you will see the majority of our permanently endowed funds are in the designated fund type, with almost $6 million. Designated funds include Community Works funds, which focuses on early childhood education, workforce development, and land use and protection. We also include funds such as area historical societies, as well as park districts and the United Way's endowment funds. Donor advised funds would be the second largest type of permanently endowed fund with almost $1 million. And over the past year, our scholarship funds increased with close to $90,000 in permanently endowed funds. In the orange, you will see the majority of temporarily restricted funds are in the designated and unrestricted, and this is where the grant dollars come from. So next, I'll show you the distribution of grants and scholarships.
This past year, you can see over half of our grant dollars came out of the unrestricted fund type, and this was due to the COVID-19 response fund. Over $340,000 has been distributed from designated funds, and we have distributed $38,000 in donor advised funds and expect to grant out another $40,000 to $50,000 by year end. Over $40,000 in scholarships were distributed this year, which is up almost 68% from last year. The increase is due to a new partnership with Herscher High School to manage their scholarship program. And total grants and scholarships awarded so far this year has reached over $1 million, which is the highest distribution the foundation has ever granted out in a year since its inception in 1982. A big reason for this increase in grant making has been due to the COVID-19 Community Response Fund. Both the United Way and the Community Foundation had created their own emergency funds, and when we found out about each other's funds, we said we needed to partner, and this is going to make a greater impact on our communities, and that's exactly what it did. We were very fortunate to receive 2 large grants from the Illinois COVID-19 Response Fund, totaling $450,000, plus another $12,500 from donor advised funds. The Community Foundation put out the challenge to our community to raise $100,000 locally, and we would match that amount as well as donor advised fund grants. And we have since matched over $95,000, just $5,000 shy of our matching goal. So if you can find it in your heart and your pocketbook, we are still taking donations for this fund as there is still a need in our community. This next slide shows you the number of households served by the Community Response Fund. Almost 24,000 households were helped with emergency food and supplies. Over 6,200 households were assisted with emergency childcare and schooling resources. And as you can see on this chart, nonprofits also supported households with health and mental health services, as well as direct financial assistance and trainings and outreach events. As I said before, there is still a need in our communities, and we will continue to receive donations to this response fund, as well as continue to accept grant requests through our grant application portal. Lastly, I want to update you on Project Sun, which is our mental health system of care designed for children birth to age 21. We are now finishing up our first year of implementation, which worked with multiple pilot sites and will now move into full implementation. Project Sun also completed the upgrade of the Can I Help resource website, and it is already being utilized by organizations to help their clients find access to resources. And there are over 700 resources listed on this site. Organizations and individuals are now being trained on how to use the site efficiently. Project Sun also hosted 2 community conversations that highlighted the history and modern day impact of racism, followed by discussions that challenged participants to share how race has affected their life stories. Future events will address local barriers faced by youth of color in accessing mental, emotional, and behavioral health services. So if you'd like to learn more about what we are doing at the Community Foundation, please reach out and we would be delighted to speak with you about the causes that matter to you and our community. And I just have to say, I think I have the shortest presentation and staying closest to my time limit. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Nicole. You may have had the shortest presentation, but you know, there's so much important information. So we really needed to make sure we got that out there. I appreciate everybody's time this morning, and I guess I'll make my presentation pretty quick as we're getting pretty lengthy here. But I just appreciate so much of everybody's updates on what is going on across our county. I especially want to thank just our different organizations and what they have going on and giving us like I said, an update. It's so important that we recognize all the different things that are going on across our country, whether it's agriculture, tourism, entertainment, law and government, our safety, philanthropy, and then our workforce and our economy. So thank you all for taking the time this morning to present to our community. I also want to take some time to thank our sponsors who have stuck with us and sponsored this event, even though we've had to pivot it from an in-person event. Milner Media, ComEd, Amita Health St. Mary's, and Star Radio. Thank you so much for being our platinum sponsors for the State of the County address. I also want to thank Nicor Gas, Riverside Healthcare, Linkpoint Media, and People's Bank. You know, without your partnerships and sponsorships, we wouldn't be able to do events like this, and we just greatly appreciate that from the Chamber of Commerce. Just a little bit of an overview in regards to what we do for the Chamber and a few things that we're focusing on. We are not-for-profit corporation, a 501c6. We currently have 403 Chamber members, and our board is completely volunteer, made up of 21 individuals across the county that live or work in this area. We also have 30 Chamber ambassadors, and this is essentially the Army and the face of the Chamber. You know, I can't do it all myself, and these Chamber ambassadors really step up and help with events and really connecting with our members, so I greatly appreciate that. Currently, we have more than 4,300 followers on social media, and then our email outreach goes out to 950 or more than 950 inboxes. Like all of us, COVID has, of course, impacted the Chamber, but not necessarily only in negative ways. Our membership has fluctuated. However, we've seen many businesses open in spite of the pandemic. Hero City Adventure Park in Bradley, Supercuts in Bourbonnais, Holiday Inn Express and Suites, they actually opened their doors mid-March, right when everything got started, but they're going strong. Special Waste Disposal, just a few businesses that have recently opened or got up and running. We also have several of our Chamber members expanding and hiring. Urban Farmer, Johnsonville, CSL, Express Employment Professionals, and Meyer. Just to name a few, there are, as we've heard throughout the presentations today, a lot of businesses that are looking for employees. During this pandemic, we've been able to offer just continuous communication in what's going on with COVID funding as far as PPP loans, the business interruption grants or small business loans, and forgiveness on those. We've been trying to keep our members updated on what the state guidelines look like, you know, even yesterday with the mitigation going into effect. Our goal is to really just keep our members informed and offer them the resources that they need to navigate through all of this pandemic. The Chamber is continuously blessed by the generosity of our and support of our members. And during this pandemic, I really want to thank People's Bank, First Trust Bank, the Federal Home Loan Bank of Chicago, and ComEd for granting us grants and donations that have really helped the Chamber out through these past several months. So thank you to those businesses. We appreciate that. Besides the pandemic, another hot topic right now is the proposed graduated income tax amendment that is on the November ballot. This amendment grants the state authority to impose different income tax rates on different levels of income. It removes the portion of the Illinois Constitution that's sometimes referred to as the flat tax, which requires all taxes on income to be at the same rate. This amendment does not itself change the tax rates. It just gives the state the ability to do that based on income levels. So we are taking a poll from Chamber business owners, community members. How do you feel about this amendment? If you log on to our website, it's just a one quick question poll. We want to know kind of where you stand. Vote yes or no on the graduated income tax amendment. And then there is a space in there to leave your comments if you so choose. We'd just like to know where you stand, and then we'll be publishing the results of those. So you can take that on our website, KankakeeCountyChamber.com. Another way that we are connecting with our community is continuously encouraging shop small, shop local, shop Kankakee County. This is something that we encourage all year round. Specifically Shop Small Saturday, which is the big push. It's the Saturday after Thanksgiving, which this year is November 28th. We will be focusing on this and pushing this for all of our local businesses. You know, we know that there's so many things that you might need to purchase for the holidays. And we just ask that you look locally first, because almost all of those things are available right here in our community from some of our local businesses. And we know our local businesses need your support right now. You know, if they thrive, we all thrive. And that's, you know, what we want to do. So, of course, you can connect with us, stay connected with us, updates on our social media websites. We also have a YouTube channel, so you can access any of our Monday Minute videos or presentation recordings, such as this one that'll be posted when it's ready to go. If you have any questions, you can always email us at info@kankakeecountychamber.com. I know, like I said, we're getting lengthy this morning. I just can't thank our agencies enough for your help in presenting today and for your help throughout the year. You know, we know you're just a small representation of so many of members of our community, and we just greatly appreciate all you do for us. So with that, again, thank you to our sponsors who have been able to put on this event, and we hope you have a great day.